Hey everyone, this is Shirley Solis with ShirleySolis.com. And a couple of weeks ago, I did a survey inside of Facebook, and I said I wanted to find out about emotions. I wanted to find out what kind of emotions people had grown up with. Were emotions shown when in their family when they were growing up? What kind of emotions? So I was very surprised because a bunch of my friends responded, and I would say 98% of the people that responded said that they grew up and either emotions were not present in their family or the emotions that they experienced were negative emotions like anger, frustration, anxiety, lots. They kept saying anger, yelling. Like those were the kind of things or the emotions that were being portrayed in their family growing up. There was only a 2% of all of the people that replied that said they felt loved and they felt connected and they felt warm and they felt like they were appreciated as being part of that family. And that really made me think, because I think we have an epidemic in our hands where so many of us grew up in a time where emotions weren't talked about, right? So even today when I have clients that I speak with, I ask them, well, what emotions did you feel? And they are not able to quite pinpoint. And that's not that odd. It's actually very common to not know what emotions you're feeling. I mean, if we think about it, yes, many of us have seen that movie from Disney, Inside Out, and we know that there's anger, there's sadness, there's fear, there's hurt, and maybe there's guilt. But what other emotions? I mean, do we even know that the difference between frustration or anxiety? Do we know that sometimes we use one emotion to cover up another emotion? Do we know that we use certain behaviors to cover up certain emotions? So all of those deeper levels of emotion are things that we didn't grow up knowing. It is just now in recent time that corporate America and even doctors and scientists have began to study the whole idea of emotions, and they began to really bring up this factor of emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? Well, emotional intelligence is the ability to measure how you relate to yourself and to others through your emotions. Emotions are this gauge that God gave us so that we would be able to just find out, okay, how are we feeling? You know, if I'm in a dangerous situation, clearly I'll have fear. But what happened when we were children is that we started creating these emotions, and our mind said, okay, this particular behavior or this particular event, it created fear. Well, then every time we associate or we have a specific event that looks like that one, we associate it to fear. And so our mind begins to create these patterns of certain emotions that may not necessarily serve us now that we're adults. And so we might have created a pattern of control, or we might have created a pattern of fear. I know that many of the clients I work with are gripped with fear. Sometimes it may look like over responsibility. It may look like anger, or but the bottom and the root of it all, it really boils down to a lot of fear that people have been harboring for many years. So why do I share all of this with you? Well, I share this with you for two reasons. First, because I think as a woman, whether you're a woman or a man watching, but I'm only going to speak about myself. As a woman, I know that it's been critical for me as a healthy human being to learn more about my emotions, to learn how to manage my emotions, to learn how to, like, even when I lose it, even when, like, yesterday I was doing something and I was like, oh, the dog peed and in top of a carpet, and I was like, this is so frustrating. I was really angry, and immediately right afterwards, I could start gauging myself and going, okay, why did I get so angry? Was this really worth it? And I could gauge and I could kind of evaluate the process that I went through. But I could only do that because I'm more familiarized with my emotions, because I'm used to looking inward. And so I've noticed that the more that I've worked in my emotions and being able to have this emotional intelligence that I talk about, the better as a person that I've become. The more that I can have personal awareness and manage myself, the more that I can relate to others in a healthy way, the more that I can request for the things that I want. I mean, there's times when if I'm a little bit frustrated and I'm trying to internalize my emotions, I may say, look, right now I just need some alone time. I just need to be by myself. I need to process what's going on. But it's a good, healthy habit, because in essence, that may keep me from overreacting in a specific scenario, right? Well, so it's important for you as an adult, whoever you're watching, whether you're a woman or a man, if you're watching this video, it's so important for you to be able to, as an individual, learn more about emotional intelligence. Educate yourself on what emotional intelligence is, okay? And that you don't learn that from a book. You learn that from doing it, from reading, yes, but you have to actively do the work of emotional intelligence. Just like an IQ, people can read the book, but if you've never done math or if you've never done writing or grammar, then you really don't know, you don't have the whole experience. So with emotions, the only way to get really good at them is to be able to practice. And that means you might have some conflict. And we all have to experience conflict, but I'd rather experience conflict in a way that would help me and that would teach me how to manage my emotions, and where I actually have a positive outcome. So very first thing is it's very important for you to learn to manage your emotions, because it's going to help you and give you a better quality of life as far as yourself and other ones around you, okay? Second is, as a mom, I know it's incredibly important for me to transfer this information to my children. I want my children to grow up having healthy emotional intelligence. In today's age, it's incredibly important. Do you know that corporate America now is hiring people, and they're not only doing IQ tests or tests based on the technical skills that person might need, but they're also doing an EQ test. They're doing emotional testing to find out how your child is gonna be able to relate to others in the workforce. And so not only that, you guys, but in your family, right? So why do you think there's all this conflict, people not getting along, rivalry between the children not obeying, children rebelling from their parents? It has to do with the fact that family has not fostered emotional intelligence in a healthy way. They've kind of developed these coping mechanisms, but the mechanisms to really make a family work haven't been developed. So when you work on your emotional intelligence, you're able to pass it on to your children, and you can help them, teach them, and cope them. Now, here's something very interesting, in that many of the clients that I work with, sometimes they've gotten to the level where they're teaching their children to learn and to be able to say, okay, were you afraid during that situation? Did that make you upset? Are you happy about that? But that's only so much, okay? These parents can only give the children, they can only give what they have. So what I've noticed is, if you have this much emotional intelligence, you're going to give your children about this much emotional intelligence. But if you are able to expand your level of emotional intelligence, then you're able to give your children a greater measure of emotional intelligence. So that will guarantee that they'll have happier relationships, better marriage, better corporate, or employee relationships, employee-boss relationships, etc. That all around, they're going to be open to friendships. They're not going to be afraid. They're not going to be overprotecting themselves. And I know that's what you want. So with all that said, part of managing the emotional intelligence is letting go of any negative emotions that you may have in your life. Because like I said, we've been harboring many of these negative emotions, like anger and sadness and fear and hurt and guilt. Many people, many moms I know with, are like afraid of so many things. They're terrified. They're terrified of things with their children. They're terrified with their own life. They're carrying a huge amount of guilt, and frustration, maybe even resentment over people. And so all of that is just kind of negative, like it's hovering over you, and it's not very positive. I also know dads who have a lot of anger, and who they're also afraid to step up. They may not necessarily feel adequate with the job that they're being given today, to be a dad, to be a provider, to be a good husband, to be a good role model, to be a good leader, and they have all of these unresolved issues, and so they're dealing with that, and they may not know how to deal with it. So I hope that you've learned that all of this is really important, that you would start your journey on emotional intelligence. But I'd like to offer myself and like to give you an invitation. If you would like to have a conversation with me to talk about maybe some emotions that you've been harboring and how we can let them go easily in a process that's amazing, it's really just phenomenal. It's called timeline therapy, and I do this with so many of my clients, and in just one session, after 1 hour, we can let go of 5 major emotions, and they feel so different. They feel like it's been let go. It's not like, this isn't like a lot of the hard processes that people go through, like hard therapy, where they're crying and it's also negative and it's hard and it's like you feel like this weight is on your shoulder. No, the way that I do this therapy is very easy. You're always encouraged. Yes, it's hard work on your brain, but you are left with a sense of awe, and you feel like you've had thousands of pounds lifted off of you, because you're basically new and transformed. Your brain has been hovering with all this stuff all these years, and it's ready to let them go. And so the example that was given to me is like you're walking with a parachute on. Like there's this parachute and you're trying to walk and you're pulling all of that from the past. So if you're interested in letting go and giving that gift of beautiful emotional intelligence to yourself, to your family, we can talk about ways to do that. It doesn't have to be incredibly expensive, depending on the level that you want to invest in. We can talk about it. So I'd like to give you that invitation. You can definitely go and read books on emotional intelligence, but if maybe something that I've said or I've connected with you is something that you can relate to, then I'd love for you to schedule a one-on-one session with me, fully complimentary, so we can talk about what emotions you've had that you need to let go of and how you can begin this journey of learning more about your emotional intelligence and passing it on to your children in a way that's really going to edify your entire family dynamic. And it's going to be amazing so that you guys can have greater unity, greater sense of purpose together. You can be thriving as a family. All right. So I'm signing off. I bless you. I encourage you. And I hope that you have learned that emotional intelligence is incredibly important in your life today. All right. You guys take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.